We all go through various stages of grief when we face some sort of a loss, whether that loss be a loss of a job, loss of a dream, loss of a partner. There's a lot of examples that we can go through where we face it. These stages are actually not linear, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to describe the phases that you go through and also just help you identify where you're at, and to also know that this is quite a normal process that you go through, that most people experience when they're going through grief. I'm also going to touch on some tips as I go through each of the steps, how you can progress from the one stage to the other. The danger is that you get stuck on one of the stages and you don't progress to the next stage. Ultimately, you want to be in a state where you accept what has happened. It's never going to be easy dealing with loss of any sort, but you want to move to a situation or a stage where you're at peace with it and you can continue with your life and learn to live with it, that it doesn't impact your life and make your life dysfunctional. These stages were first described by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. She was doing some research on terminal patients who were facing their imminent death, and she started picking up patterns and started looking at the various phases that they go through. Nowadays, this model is used so widely. It's used in change management in work situations, but I also want to refer to personal losses that you experience in your life. Even if it's the loss of a dream of having a child that doesn't come to fruition, the loss of a relationship, and many other losses. Every single one of us are walking through. It's almost like we're playing out this movie that we're going through in our lives. And the reality is everyone that crosses your path is facing some form of loss, one form of loss or another. And we're all at different steps and different phases of that process, that emotional process. We may not even recognize it, and we may not even identify it within ourselves or within others. So what I'd like to do is just to make sure you understand what those phases are, identify for yourself where you are, and give you some tips so that you can progress from that one stage to the next stage and ultimately find you in a place where you feel you accept this. There are 5 stages that you're going to go through in this process of emotional grieving. The first phase is denial. Denial is a temporary defense mechanism. This is a state of shock, numbness, almost detached from the reality of the situation. This is where you say, it can't be happening. It's not my partner who's leaving me. Those test results are invalid. So I want to share a little bit of what's happened to me recently. I have a mother who's 78 years old, who's vibrant, she's lovely, she's absolutely the epitome of love. She looks after her great-grandchildren, and everybody knows we can count on her. She's the true matriarch of the family. And recently, my mom had a stroke. When I received that first phone call to say there's something wrong with my mom and I need to go there, immediately I thought, she's probably just having a vertigo attack. And once I got there and I observed for myself to see that there was something physically wrong, the reality was I didn't want to accept it. I kept on saying to myself, no, there's just a temporary thing that's happening here. This can't be happening to my mom. We're going to get to the hospital and they're going to find out it's something so trivial and it's not a shock. But at the back of my mind, I knew she was actually experiencing a shock. But it was very tough for me to accept it. Only once they put her through the MRI and they managed to give me the diagnosis and confirmed it through the scans that she had in fact had a major stroke, did I realize that I can't deny it any longer. Many of you are probably going through a situation of some form of loss. And I know what it feels like. What you need to do is just give yourself some time. Just give yourself some space just to start processing what's happened. Remember that your emotions and your mind take a bit of time to catch up to one another. So be gentle on yourself. It's not easy dealing with any loss, especially losing a partner, a dream, a pet. This denial phase is almost a shock phase, and you are emotionally numb. What does help, and a good way to deal with it, is to talk to others. If you're somebody who doesn't like talking to somebody, just start jotting down your thoughts. Start writing. Just release that shock, because that emotional shock impacts your entire body. And it does take its toll on you. Whatever you can do to express the reality that works for you, do that. The second point is anger. This anger can actually turn into rage, where you're getting so angry at your partner for walking out. And then you start resenting, you start getting so angry. Your mind starts going into turmoil and you start going down this rabbit hole of starting feeling so much anger and so much resentment of all the things you did, all the things you'd sacrificed, the investment you had made. So once you identify that you're in this angry phase, what is very useful and a good tip for you is to find a way to channel that anger. And there are various ways that you can channel your anger. Exercise is probably one of the best forms of expressing it. But vigorous exercise, like running vigorously or punching bag, Just some way that you can direct and channel that energy that's inside of you, not misdirect it to another person and create another destruction. Anger is just a natural emotional reaction to the loss. Allow yourself to feel it. Most people don't even know how to acknowledge and how to deal with it. And many of us are taught just to suppress it. Don't validate it. Just get on with the practical realities of life. Well, he's gone. So what? Just move on with your life. And all your friends are telling you just to move on and accept it. But you can't. So just like my mom, I was just so angry. I was angry, first of all, that the ambulance took so long to get there. We lost additional time when they sent my mom to go have the MRI scan without sedating her. And due to her claustrophobia, she was unable to settle down and to have the scan. I tried everything to calm her down. In fact, I started getting so angry and I started shouting because she's also slightly deaf, trying to get her to realize the necessity and the importance of speedy, rapid diagnosis of a stroke. But unfortunately, all my attempts were to no avail. And it made me so angry that we had to go all the way back to casualty. We had to stand there and wait for a doctor in the emergency room to come and first prescribe something to sedate her, then go back to the x-ray department. And lo and behold, when we got back, there was somebody else in the MRI scan. So my mom couldn't go immediately. All of this made me furious. I can't tell you the rage and the anger I felt inside of me, knowing that we had lost this time. And even today, I sit back and I find myself going back, feeling angry. If we had just taken her instead, if I just insisted on this. And there's a lot of what ifs. And in her case, perhaps she would have recovered fully and being able to speak. Right now, she's going through intensive therapy to try and regain her ability to speak once again. The point is, anger is part of the natural healing process. And you are going to feel extreme anger. I don't blame the doctors. I don't blame the radiographers. Whatever has happened. But the reality is, I understand that that's what the process is and that's what we go through. We need to be able to move on and to accept that we did the best we could at the time with whatever information we had available to us. Even if it is a breakup for you, you did the best you could at the time. It's no good rehashing you being angry at yourself or angry at them. So process that anger and channel it into something. Don't suppress your anger. Whatever you do, find a way to channel it. Otherwise, next thing you'll realize that you're facing some psychosomatic illness or disease because you've suppressed all this anger. There's no way for the release of this anger in your body. The third phase is bargaining. This is your attempt to try and regain some form of control. This is when you start saying, well, even with your partner, well, I will change. If you just give me one last chance, I'm prepared to change. And you start grasping and you start clinging and wanting ways to remedy it. What if I can do this? What if I can do that? And this is a phase where you often go through a lot of guilt and feeling like you're wanting to do something different. In my situation, I regret not having spoken up. I regret not having told them from the onset, listen, my mom's seriously claustrophobic. Please sedate her before you send her for the MRI scan. You too may be harboring a lot of regrets and wanting to bargain. So what you can do is don't doubt yourself. You know you did the best you could at the time. So my key message to you is don't doubt yourself. Don't doubt the things you did in the past. The emotional reactions that you had were authentic to yourself. And know you reacted and behaved the best way you could at that point in time. So honor yourself. Know that you were being true to yourself. Even if you don't believe you were perfect, don't beat yourself up over it. The fourth stage is depression. This is usually the longest phase. And this is where you go through this great sense of sadness, hopelessness. And it usually can be a prolonged period. And if you don't get yourself out of it quickly, it can become chronic conditional situation that you find yourself in. So it's very important for you to understand that you're in control. Nobody else is in control. I know sometimes you don't feel like getting up. You don't want to get out of bed because that sadness just consumes you. It's like a dark cloud. So if you're feeling very, very sad, another way I'm processing it is at times I just start crying. And it's okay to cry. You need to feel what you're feeling and allow yourself to feel those emotions. Don't suppress them. If it means you're going to go and cry in a pillow and you're too ashamed for anybody to see you, do that. If it means you've got a strong support system where you can go sit and you can talk about it, that's also very, very helpful. The bottom line is honor yourself. You're allowed to feel the way you're feeling. It is a natural part of going through a process when you lose something. Don't hold the emotions at bay and avoid them. So you are going to feel sad. What is important is that you don't hold it at bay. You need to allow it to feel. You need it to flow. The danger comes when you start ignoring those feelings and holding them at bay and not processing them. Some tips when you're in this state is to start setting yourself little goals. Even if it means just getting out of bed, do it. Getting out of bed, making your bed, that's the first step. Any step of getting back into normalization is going to help. Exercise is actually brilliant. Even if you can find it within you, just to go walk into nature. Just set yourself a goal that you're going to go walk 10 minutes in nature and allow yourself just to enjoy the beautiful surroundings around you. And while you're walking, just practice mindfulness. Be so present in the moment and try and observe all the beauty of nature that has to offer around you while you're walking. We move on to the fifth phase, and this is acceptance. This doesn't mean that you're over it, because nobody truly gets over a loss. This means that you find a way to live with the loss. Now, every one of us is different. Every one of us starts accepting this in a different way. You can't get to acceptance phase unless you've gone through the 4 phases that I've described previously. But I must also let you know it's not linear. You're not going to start from denial and you're going to progress through anger, and finally you're going to come up the other end and you're going to be accepting. There are going to be days and there are going to be times where you find yourself slipping back. You could land up having a memory. Something just triggers a memory and then you're right back to where you were. So accept that grief is like waves. You're going to have ebbs and flows, and there are going to be days that you're okay, and there's going to be days that you're not okay. Everybody takes their own time to heal. Some people are able to deal in a rapid pace. Others take much longer. Nobody experiences loss in one uniform way. So just be compassionate with yourself and allow yourself to do it. Some additional tips is seek support. It is often very, very healthy to start talking to somebody, whether it be you go to see a therapist or you have very close friends or family. Somewhere where you can offload and you can vent and you can express what you're feeling is very, very helpful. Support is essential. Another important tip is self-care. I know this is the last thing on your mind at this point in time, but you have to prioritize yourself. And that is making sure your hygiene is taken care of. Exercise is very good, but sleep. And if you find that you're struggling to sleep, go and see your health practitioner and just get a little band-aid, something to help you sleep, because there's nothing worse than feeling this huge sense of loss, and then on top of it, you're unable to sleep. It's a form of torture, and don't allow yourself to do it. So it's okay to go and get some form of help to help you through this period and through this phase of absolute helplessness. Very important is to be patient with yourself. Don't allow yourself to be angry. This is a time where you've got to self-soothe and you've got to take care of yourself. And just be gentle. If this video has been helpful, let me know by clicking the like button, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any uploads. Thanks so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next one.